Howdy, folks. Welcome back to another Welcome back to another episode of Deck Check. And actually, this will be our first ever episode that is going to be members first, not members only. Did some talking with the boys. We did some polling with members, and people all just didn't seem to really mind or didn't care about making this more of a public piece of content. So the way things are going to work now, to kind of just give a brief rundown before I jump into some stuff. Members first profiles for decks are going to go live on Mondays and then go public on Wednesdays. And then members first deck check videos will go live on Wednesdays and then go public on Fridays. So you'll kind of just have a constant string of members first content throughout the week, along with that other stuff. And we've also been talking about a few other things, like about probably trying to maybe stream a little bit more and stuff like that, trying to run some other content things that we want to do, maybe try and do some matches with members. We'll see. I don't know. We're still figuring things out. Don't hold us to anything. There's no promises, but we're working through stuff. Anyways, just figured I'd mention that because maybe just get the feelers out, see if that's something you guys would be interested in. But anyways, so with that all being said, in case you are, if you're not, well, most of you aren't, who are going to see this probably aren't members. But basically what this video is.
You should become one.
You should.
One already.
Basically what this video is we go over top decks from JP and EN that we find on the Digimon card meta, and we just sort of go over them really quickly, talk about them, just kind of give our thoughts on them. And, it's just cool to kind of stay up to date with stuff that's happening in JP, and then also just seeing what's happening in our own area and just kind of check on things. So, yeah, that's the general rundown. If you guys are new to the channel and watching this for the first time, please consider liking and subscribing. Hopefully you guys enjoy this content. We have plenty of Digimon content just for you and for the whole community. Really, we got loads of stuff and more stuff on the way. Yeah. So you should stick around as we take this journey, as we take this ride together. Anyways, so first list, Ben, I'll let you lead.
Sure. The first list that we have here is a purple hybrid list that got second place at the most recent Asia finals. Congrats to Gary on piloting this list. It's got a little bit of new sort of spliced in pieces here from EX8, which I think is interesting to see. Some of these sort of spicy tech choices. This is more of a purple, pure purple based, outside of the medieval gallant that we see here later. I know here in NA we had a pretty good mix of pure purple. We've had the purple yellow with the yellow top ends and the aces, and we had the dark masters variant. This is a pretty standard one. You've got your Uko package, which is great for any sort of core purple hybrid engine. We do see the new Syakomon, which I think is really interesting. In a meta that has a lot of floodgates, being able to pop something when attacking can come up on occasion from time to time as an inherit. But I think really used more so for the on deletion to just cycle, which is what purple hybrid likes to do and set up trash. I do like the Argomon as well. Being able to kind of cheap Evo into a level 5 is really, really good. And then kind of lock down your opponent's tamers as well. Can be pretty busted. And speaking of pretty busted, Medieval Gallant. I think a lot of us were focused on Gallant X as a really, really good top end here in EX8. And not to say that a lot of us slept on Medieval Gallant. I think everybody knew that this was a good card, but I think the more people test with it, and maybe it's just me, but the more I test with it, the more I'm this guy can be slapped in to pretty much any deck out there. And it works. Being able to just pop stuff, vortex, delete things, and control board is just really, really good.
Yeah, and the bonus, and it's bonus points if your deck has green or red colors in it, because then it just also can actually digivolve. Because it's just a strong card. It just does a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's a solid list. I like it a lot. The Siako I really like because you can now swing with your QPs and still get the draw one, trash one, and still get the memory as well.
It's best of both worlds.
Yeah, exactly.
And I do like the Nidhogg as well. I think we saw a couple of our topping purple hybrid lists here run the Nidhogg, and I think it makes sense being able to pitch one to gain a memory. And then I think the last thing I wanted to point out was, we're still running the whole Jack Raid Rivals Barrage package, which is pretty good. We're choosing to do the purple mem boost instead of the mist memory boost here, which I think is just sort of dealer's choice. And yeah, I mean, otherwise, I think pretty standard purple hybrid list. A lot of folks are clamoring for a hit to it, but
The
I mean, we'll
Ginkaku
see.
promote I think is also interesting too because we don't see that card too much anymore. But I think it's
Hmm.
cool. It's a neat idea to kind of give your like last stack rush
Sure.
to kind of close out games sometimes.
I guess the last thing to point out before we hop onto the next deck is it is interesting. I think most people are running at least 3 of the BT16 or 18 Koichi. This one's only running 2, and we're choosing to run 3 of the OG BT2 mat. Which I mean, I guess makes sense, right? Like if
Yeah.
you're trashing a lot, you just want to pick up pieces and stuff, and that BT2 mat can come in super clutch. So I guess it makes sense. You just
Yeah.
kind of flip the ratios there a little bit.
I can see it.
All right.
All right.
I've yapped enough. All
No,
you
you're
chief.
good. Jump on to the next one here. Next one we have is a Lilith X deck by UOJ. Got first place in a Tamer battle at Pixels and Decks. Lilith X is such a cool deck. It's incredibly annoying to play against sometimes because there's so many like, oh, I'm gonna try and control your board. Uh-oh, guess what? Your own board's getting controlled. But it's cool. It's a neat concept, and it often just kind of. It's not. I don't think it's bad by any means. It's very efficient. I think it just tends to not have as much aggression as it needs to really get like the whole work done. But this list kind of goes crazy. So starting off, we're running pretty standard like low end for purple right now. It's your bread and butter with your Goblin from BT14, your Gabu X one of to get X anybody cards and other search. Gabumon STs are good. This Sunomon from BT6 has just only increased in value as the game's gone on, as we get more and more purple decks that want to draw and trash cards. Because I think for a while there, like from like its conception in BT2, BT3, all the way up to BT10, we kept on getting so many different like purple ideas with self-mill, from trashing from top of deck, and then actual draw and trash engines that like since it didn't really settle on anything, it didn't have as much value. But then after that, it just kept on seeing more and more. Fours, of course, we have Guru X, which is really cool. Ogremon, Dobra X, pretty standard lineups for our fours. The fives, Lady Devi X is such a cool card. Artwork, you know, phenomenal. But really, the effect is really good. Because it gets around a lot of that protection, right? That gets like that puts you in a position of like, oh, well, I'm protected by my opponent's effects. This one says it's your effect. It puts the effect on you, and it basically says, yeah, you're not going to be able to swing. You are stuck unless you want to lose that stack, which is just tough. And then also can just get a token as well if you it has blocker and retail and a level 4 purple card. That's pretty good if they have a Lady Devi or anybody in sources. Top end we see complete purple toolbox, 2 Lilithmon from EX6, 3 Lilith X from EX7. We have 1 Medieval Gallant because he's just like he's another Death X right now. Which speaking of, we still have a Death X. We have 1 Mervamon in there for some cheeky Merva plays. Just hard slam her for, you know, a decent cost, especially off of Anubis, who's up there as well. Which I don't know why I forgot. I just glazed over Anubis, but Anubis is there. EX5, you know, best set to ever come out of.
No, we're just deleting EX5 from our, you know, from our tool bank, right?
They should ban the whole set.
This doesn't exist.
Just get it out of here. That set has only gotten more and more broken as time's gone on. And then 1 Leviathan X Antibody, which all makes sense.
Yep.
I mean, you're running 3 Protoforms. All your X Antibodies are pretty efficient. And it's good. It's just a good toolboxy top end. We also see the brand new BT19 Beelzemon Blasmodes, which we don't have access to. That's part of the other half of 2.5 for us. Who's a really good card.
Yeah.
Being able to sort of restack your deck and keep you from deck out is really good. And yeah, you know, a couple of tamers, nothing too crazy, but overall, like, I can see how this list would do well. It just has so many different, like, just options to deal with things. And is incredibly memory efficient with all of the memory gain inheritables from playing out bodies, from trashing cards, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I think that's all I got for this. Unless you had anything you want to add.
No, I mean, I've always enjoyed Lilith X too. Like the deck, when I've always like messed around with it, has felt really fun. And like you said, it utilizes the core engine that like Levia runs or Knight runs, yada yada. So I mean, we know it works. And
Yeah.
just sprinkle a different top end.
This BT3 Lady Devi also is another card that's just got an infinite value as time's gone on. It's so good.
Yeah. The consistency value from that card is huge.
Yeah. Draw 3, trash 2, basically. So good. Okay. Moving on.
Yeah.
Next one's all you,
Moving
Becker. It's your
on.
boy. It's your gobble boy.
It's my forgotten boy. After I've been flirting with another blue dog for the past like 2 years now. But we've got Melga back on the map. This is piloted by Maxtobigo. I'm probably
Max
butchering that.
Max to bit go. Max to bit go. Yes.
Yeah. Singapore at a tamer battle got first place at Agora Hobby. Ooh, I actually went there when I was in Singapore.
Oh, nice. This is 17 players as well.
Yeah.
Based
So
off that number, assuming that's what it is.
I'm impressed that they were able to do this. I have tried to make Melga work and I have failed miserably in this current meta. So the fact that he was able to pilot what seems to be a pretty standard Melga list is like, shout out to you. I mean, you run your classic like Gabu search package here, right? Your like BT5 Gabu and the Gabu X antibody, I think are just invaluable consistency pieces that you just don't mind slamming down. The Gabu that you always want in raising is this BT15 one, which just adds to your consistency and your draw power. The Guru X's, again, are really, really good. Kind of live and die off of these cards right here, in my opinion, because you need your battle protections to actually do things. And then, interestingly enough, I think to up consistency with... Actually, no. I mean... They're not running any of the starter Wergarumons, which I find a bit curious. Instead, they're just doing the EX1 Wergaru, which evos for 3. When digivolving, you draw 1, and then when attacking, if you have 8 or more cards in hand, you gain a memory, which I guess makes sense to extend some of your plays.
Yeah.
But I am curious to see, like, because the starter one I feel like is just great, being able to swing and restand.
It's good for early aggression, but I think the idea here was to be able to just be fully blue, or as blue as possible. For consistency, but it's interesting because there's no, when you get to the bottom, there's no trainings, there's no boosts. It's just 4 scrambles, which is crazy. But I guess the draw one off the Werguru can be nice. Sorry, I'll let you keep going, but like it's cool. I actually like this.
Yeah, because I think now that you bring up the scrambles, right? Like Scramble reads that your blue Digimon digivolves into another blue Digimon. Like you can't go from blue to purple or purple to blue. So I guess it does make sense that you just run the full blue package here, because then you utilize your scrambles to its maximum efficiency. Being able to go from a Guru straight into Werguru and then kind of like gain the memory back again when you swing is pretty good. So I see it, and then you can just play out a Gabu to search and kind of string things along. Also makes sense. Your Metal Garurumon split is interesting. I've always favored the BT9 Melga X, but I think in a meta full of like wide boards and all of that, having the Melga X that says, look, we're just gonna ice wall you again, pretty good.
Giga ice wall.
Yeah. And then you've got your Bond Ace and your Paladin Ace, which are great top end aces for this deck. And you just round it out with Matt Ashita and just the Protoform. So it's an interesting list. It's a list that makes sense the more you think about it. I like the EX1 Melga because it's also super cheap. Like, in theory, right, if you have a Werguru in raising and you just scramble into this Melga here, you could go into it for 1, and then you gain 1 for every 4 cards. If you have a big hand, I mean, you could net memory off of just going into a Melga.
Right. Yeah,
you swing and you pop 2, something.
So you're paying 3 total, but oftentimes you'll probably just digivolve 4/1 total, if not cheaper. And then, like, you bottom deck on deletion stuff, which is really good.
Especially in a very heavy purple meta. Like, I can see this being sneakily a very good card. So, well played.
Like Gallant X, for example, if they don't see their War Growl X, they get an on-deletion effect from the Growl X inheritable. Or the Growl X effect gives them an on-deletion. So you just bottom deck Gallant and stuff like that.
Yeah,
the memory gain's good. This is cool. Actually, nice. I like this a lot.
This is pretty cool.
Also, I imagine the scramble is probably helpful for just being able to like build a body back up, so you're just instantly back in the game in case something knocks out your stack.
Yeah, it's a neat list.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. Jump into the next here. We have Angrey Birds, which we just recently featured in a video. If you haven't watched, Angrey Birds it's so cool, dude. It's such a neat idea where it's like it doesn't really run anything like that new. Like there's nothing like that different really in it. It's just an idea. It's just someone was like, hey, what if I just put Ancient Grey as the top end in Birds and then just see what happens? And it works. Because you just have so much efficiency off of your Garuda Aces and Garuda X antibodies to do big chip, while you just have heavy aggression with Ancient Grey. It syncs with your on deletions. It syncs with getting lots of Tamers on board for pulling cards back out. You can constantly cycle cards very easily from your trash to proc other effects to play bodies back out on top of keeping consistency. It's just super effective. It's very, very good. And we see it's just a pretty like standard list from what I've seen from other Angry Birds lists.
Can I make a quick tangential interjection? When you said like there's nothing new, for some reason my brain went to the Christian Bale's Batman where he goes like to Rachel, it's not who I am underneath, but what I do that defines me. I don't know why my brain jumped to there, but I was like, yeah, bird, bat. I don't know. I'm tired.
No, you're good.
But go on.
But yeah, so we see a couple of interesting things though. Like the Alice McCoy in here is neat. Yeah. Because you can pretty consistently, like, you'll probably just hard slam Garuda aces sometimes for free and whatnot. So you'll probably have like a rookie on board or something like that you can pop and then Evo into something for a lot cheaper. Wings of Love, or Twin Wings of Love, is honestly such a it's a crazily powerful card that just doesn't see play because Sora was so limited to birds. But now that like we have this new top end variant with it and everything else, and to be fair, birds isn't bad. Just raw birds is not bad by any means. It's just very hard to pilot. It's very, very nuanced. It probably has the most micro decisions in the game in my opinion, to like make a difference with how you do, because I think it's one where, I mean, maybe aside from like Galaxy, where it's like skill expression is so important in this list. Like it really comes down to the person playing the deck more often than not. Which is cool because sometimes we don't really see that in Digimon. I think sometimes in Digimon, like if you just play a certain deck, your win rate's pretty decent. Like you have a pretty good chance just because of the effects the deck has, especially if it's straightforward enough. But Birds is one that's not straightforward. Very often, usually you have to really kind of look for the right plays and the right times to push your aggression, so it's cool. But yeah, shout out to Gonzalo de la Guardia. I'm sorry if I butchered your last name, but you got top 16 with this list over in Chile. So
very nice.
It's awesome. It's sick.
Yeah.
All right, next up.
Moving on. Next up is another deck that we have featured recently on the channel. TJ himself was piloting it. It's Pyramidi. Havix 13 piloted this in Spain at another Tamer battle, got 3rd place. So congrats there. I think from what I've seen you pilot and some of the, I think what Anthony was talking about as well, like pretty standard. You know, the Tumblemon is really, really good, being able to net you memory and being able to just, you know, live off of all your like your tuck, untuck, and kind of build up your sort of like Pyramidi stack. Can get really scary if you can snowball and have enough time to like set all that up and kind of do what you want to do. So I think it's a pretty standard list from what I'm seeing, right? Like a pretty standard go-to lineup with your go-to and go-to X. The Sunariza also is pretty good, being able to delete something when you trash that source, right? I think it's a play cost 4 or less.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. And then, you know, your Landramon, Golem, like all of your EX8 pieces are really, really good. They're not running the promo Landramon here. So thoughts on that?
I don't think they have the promos. I don't think he had access to the promos for this, or just didn't have them yet. Because I think this was before we actually had the new Tamer pet. No, it's January 19th. You just didn't have them. I just think.
Maybe. Because I would assume this like BT10 Golemon would become a like the promo Landra, right?
Yeah,
and you probably cut down on the regular EX8 Landra and maybe bump up the promos to 4.
You cut down on the EX8 Golemon. The realization, which I already got it mentioned to me like 5 different times today about how it's not one Digivolving. I'm sorry, I'm blind. Okay, look at my glasses. All right, and I'm stupid. They don't help me, and I'm dumb. Anyways, so it's on play and on deletion, so it's down to a 2-of for me in the deck, and now I'm on like I think 3 promo, 4 of the close player ones, the EX8 ones.
Yeah,
but yeah, the promo's like a 2 or 3 of at least, because it's very good for just searching out the rest of your pieces. It works really well with the promo close in particular. And you can let you stack the deck a little bit too, because you can choose whether the cards go to top or bottom, so you can kind of sift out some of the excess stuff if you don't need it. But otherwise, the list, it's for the most part, it has a lot of stuff going on with it that's pretty standard. It looks like that they're just purely focused on the OTK. They're not running any ace cards like Cyberdra Ace or Shadow Seraphius or anything like that. They're just like, I'm going to see my line every time, and I'm going to just do this one line of play. which if it works, it works. They got third place, so.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think also two options to point out, right? I think we kind of alluded to them in our commentary video for Pyramidi as well. But Zofar Caboose, which is the one that came out in EX8, being able to collision, piercing, reboot, plus 3k DP, and then can't be returned to hand or deck is huge for letting your Pyramidi stick and do some crazy damage. I think, like you said, since they're not running promo clothes, whether it was like accessibility or just a choice, I mean, Breath of the Gods also is really good in just helping your big body stick, and then giving things reboot to keep them, live and unsuspended. And then also the security effect too. I think it's a very like underrated security effect where it just pops out of security. Your opponent's like, well, I guess we're not swinging for game this turn, right?
Yeah. Just being able to tell
Is
them
also really, really
you're
good.
done for the turn. No more aggression is good.
But yeah, I think that wraps it up for me. Unless you had more to talk about.
No, that's it. I mean, otherwise, it's a very like, it looks very similar to an early list that I had before I started trying to tech for certain things, and sometimes and part of me kind of misses just the simplicity of just focusing on the OTK.
Sure.
Yeah, moving forward. Next up, we have Barba X by Hyoman. It got first place at a Tamer battle at Cloud Collectibles. It looks like 32 players played in. Barbamon is a card that I want to be good because I love the idea of just like, all right, start trimming that hand size. Start trashing cards. I know you want them. You don't get to have them. And getting Barbamon X just further like improved that whole line. And we see it's running pretty standard purple package, right? Like we have for the level 4s, we have our Dober X, we have our Dobermons. We do see some more interesting stuff with like all the Siakos. They're just like full Siakomon like low end, which is really, really neat for like clearing low level Digimon, gaining memory. The Siako X is honestly pretty good because it's also just more kind of card mill off your opponent. The Octomon again is clever for more card trashing from your opponent's hand. The Devimon from EX8, the NSO one, is also pretty good for all that stuff. So lots of like just sort of like helping you draw cards while trying to help make your opponent lose cards and setting up your trash at the same time. We see like the level 5 line is pretty varied. So we see the EX1 Lady Devi, which is just sort of helping set up our trash, and then gaining memory if we play Digimon by effects. The Ferrismon from EX6, which is pretty cool.
I really like the Ferrismon.
Yeah. I am kind of working on a Barbamon list to goof off with, just because we never got Barbamon on the channel, so I wanted to try and learn it a little bit and maybe put it on the channel for everyone to kind of get an idea of what it can do. Which, there's a reason why it's not really popping up too much. It's not the greatest, but it's funny. It's cool. It can do some funny things. But yeah, when Digivolving on deletion, if your opponent has 5 or fewer cards in their hand, you gain a memory, and then if they have 7 or more cards in their hand, they trash a card in their hand, so you're either trimming their hand size or gaining memory. Neo Devi is board control or trimming their hand size, and then also lets you just spit out Dan Devis if it gets deleted. And then the one attacking heritables is just forcing your opponent to trash cards in your hand. If they don't, then you get to play out things from trash, so that's pretty cool. Again, the BT3 Lady Devi makes a return for draw consistency. Great card. Lady Devi X, also just a great card. And then Barbamon himself. He's good. He's fine. I don't think he's a bad card. He's just a card that, like, again, he kind of falls into the same loop. The Lilith loop, if you will. Not actually Lilith loop. That's a deck, but where Lilithmon just doesn't have aggression, so like Barbamon also kind of has that. He just doesn't have good aggression. He can kind of spam board a little bit, but he's mostly just controls your opponent's hand size without having really any real protections outside of like scapegoat on himself.
Sure.
Like the idea is that like he can trash cards in your opponent's hand and then play purple card with play cost 10 less from your trash without paying the cost. And then for each card in your opponent's hand, you reduce this effect cost maximum by 1. So we're in a meta where like Imperial draws a lot, Mirage draws a lot, stuff like there's a lot of decks that draw a lot, so it can be hard to get your opponent's hand size down to a point where you're actually able to play anything. Barbamon X sort of helps with the aggression with trashing security, but it's still tough. But it's cool. It's a fun idea that just needs a little bit of an oomph. I think something a little bit of a boost. But
I agree.
What does 7th Jewel Rise even do? I actually don't even know what this Barba X Anybody option does.
It's I don't know.
If your
It's like one of
opponent
those.
has 5 more cards in their hand, they trash
You can
a
pop
card
a
in their
7 or
hand.
lower, but if you have more, you like reduce the level you can delete for each card in their hand.
For every 3
of
cards in your
5.
opponent's hand,
Or
you
three,
remove
three,
1
three,
level.
yeah, yeah.
That's not bad. That's
It's not.
If it was for
okay.
every card in your opponent's hand, remove 1 level from this effect's maximum, it'd be miserable. But it takes, you know, it looks for 3 cards, which is fine.
It's not bad. I think the thing that just hurts is like it's a 7 cost. I feel like it was 5 or 6.
It's interesting they're running 4. I think they're just wanting to force their opponent to just trash as many cards as possible by when the Evo. Like, I think the idea is to go into Barba X, bottom deck like multiple 7th Jewel Rise, force them to trash a bunch of cards, and then delete things. And then you Barba X effect to do things, I guess, is the idea. I don't know. It's
Maybe.
cool. But yeah, so stay tuned. I'm working on something like that. We'll see if it actually comes to fruition with the time that we have. But it's something that I would like to do. But anyways, I think that about does it for the lists that we have for you folks today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let us know what you guys think about this series. Let us know how you like, if you guys have any feedback or anything that you guys would want to see differently. You know, we're still working on things. You know, we're definitely open to suggestions, and TJ's done a great job already at like heading this and spearheading this, and this is what we've been doing for our members for now. But if you guys have any like sort of things you want to see or specific decks you want us to go over, let us know. Hit us up in the comments.
All right. That'll about do it. Ben, say the thing. Say the thing.
Say the line. Say the line.
Say the line, Bart.
We'll catch you on that flippy flip. Bye bye.
I love when he says that. It's so good. I love it. All right, we do.